And that was the president, joined by the Prime Minister of Singapore, President Obama, with some of his harshest words yet for Donald Trump during that news conference, saying the Republican nominee keeps on proving he is unfit to serve as president. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Sandra Smith, host of Kennedy on Fox Business, Kennedy, National Review reporter Katherine Timpf, and today's hashtag one lucky guy, co-host of After the Bell on FBN and host of Forbes on Fox, David Asman, is outnumbered. The president there going for more than an hour with the Singapore Prime Minister. We'll get to it now. It was supposed to be a joint news conference with the Prime Minister on a landmark trade deal. You heard him talking about TPP. President Obama taking a detour from the international trade to presidential politics. When asked if Donald Trump is ready to assume the highest office in the land in the wake of recent controversial statements involving the GOP nominee, here's what President Obama said.
Yes, I think the Republican nominee is unfit to serve as president. I said so last week, and he keeps on proving it. The fact that he doesn't appear to have basic knowledge around critical issues in Europe, in the Middle East, in Asia, means that he's woefully unprepared to do this job.
And then President Obama went on to say that Trump's controversial remarks are not just a one-time thing.
This isn't a situation where you have an episodic gaffe. This is daily and weekly, where they are distancing themselves from statements he's making. There has to be a point at which you say, this is not somebody I can support for President of the United States.
This comes one day after Donald Trump called Hillary Clinton, quote, the devil. He has hinted at this insult in the past. Now he's getting specific. Watch.
They're talking about Bernie because he made a bad deal. He should have not made a deal. He would have gone down and done something really important. Once he made that deal, and believe me, he has buyer's remorse. If he would have just not done anything, just go home, go to sleep, relax, he would have been a hero. But he made a deal with the devil. She's the devil. He made a deal with the devil. It's true.
David, a couple things I want to point out before we go to you. One, Donald Trump is actually speaking right now at a rally that's been going on for more than an hour. So if you were flipping around and you were looking for two oppositional things, you might have found it there with the president.
Sure.
And it's interesting that the president would take him on. I mean, he was asked the question, but got very detailed about Donald Trump.
I think the president knew well that Donald Trump was speaking elsewhere, and it was directly focused on him. But I'd just like to say something about what he specified why he thought Donald Trump was unfit for the presidency. And I'm going to quote him here. He said, people depend on the White House for getting stuff right.
Right.
Now, you think of all the stuff that this White House has got wrong, like pulling troops out of Iraq despite all the generals telling the president not to do it, like supporting the Muslim Brotherhood during the Arab Spring, which was a disaster, turned out to be disastrous for the Middle East as a whole, turned out to be disaster for Egypt in particular, our ally. How about not following the Constitution? He accused Donald Trump of not following the Constitution or not having proper respect for the Constitution. That's why he's unfit. A lot of people would say the same charge could be leveled against the president.
Why?
Because of all of the executive decisions he has made, many of which tend to go beyond the bounds of what could be plausible, what you are allowed to do within the boundaries, creating these massive regulatory institutions based on the Department of this or the Department of that, going far beyond what the founders wanted the federal government to do.
When you look at the number of them just on balance, though, he did put forth fewer. What you're talking about is the substance of those executive
It's quality, not
what we call
quantity.
The use of the
right. It's quality because the impact that his executive decisions have had have been far more extensive than the impact of previous presidents.
Katherine, I want to get your opinion just on what it means to, I mean, Donald Trump basically gets elevated. He did this in the primaries, the president, too. He gets elevated when the current president takes him on. This isn't like Hillary Clinton taking him on.
Absolutely, and this was supposed to be about TPP. Of course, he was asked the question, but he went on, saying he makes the same mistakes over and over again. Hillary Clinton makes the same mistakes over and over again. She actually had a horrible week. Polls aren't reflecting it, but I think that's because Trump needs to focus more on those things rather than, like, calling her the devil. I mean, it's funny. She's a little less powerful than the devil, so it's not really accurate. But
right now.
But, you know, if he's going to say something to make headlines, make sure it's on message and on policy, because really, this week for her was so bad, and we should be talking about that more than we're talking about, oh, he said something kind of mean.
Give me one example of what you, because his surrogates will do it, but what do you want to see come out of his mouth?
Well, just, I mean, when she's lying about saying that the FBI director said she was telling the truth, lying about someone saying you're telling the truth is pretty funny. That jobs report was awful after she just connected herself so strongly at the convention to the Obama family. There's so many things we could be talking about. Well, of course, constantly the Clinton Foundation. When she says, oh, you're so close to Putin, it's like, well, at least we didn't, you know, sell a fifth of our uranium to Russia, basically, you know, give it away, and suddenly you have $145 million. Let's talk about that. These are things we need to be talking about, not, oh, Trump said something mean. I really don't. Can
I just tell you what was going through my mind when I was watching President Obama slamming dig after dig against the GOP nominee? Is wow, these debates are going to be interesting.
I'm so excited.
I mean, we know that President Obama has cleared his schedule in October to campaign for Hillary Clinton, but we got the announcement of those 4 presidential debates coming up. Wow, if that wasn't a taste of what we're going to hear.
I love Monday Night Football, but I'd give it up to watch those debates.
You know what? Tom Brady's got a few Mondays free, so and Sundays. So what was interesting as I'm watching this is the president. He shouldn't get so caught up in emotion. He shouldn't get so defensive, especially when he's having an international press conference. I realize he's in Washington, D.C. He's done the same thing when he's gone beyond the country's borders, especially in the UK. That joint press conference with David Cameron, he devoted way too much time to Donald Trump. But what he's doing here is he's suffering from his own self-induced panic, because the first 100 days of his presidency, he wrote so many executive orders undoing George W. Bush's legacy, and he realized how powerful that pen was. He's used it throughout his presidency, and now his greatest fear is that Donald Trump is going to win and do the exact same thing. He is in legacy-preserving panic, and that's why he's fighting so hard for Hillary Clinton to get elected, so Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to do what he did when he first assumed office.
So what's interesting about that, because it's not just the subject matter, but I agree with Kennedy, it's the timing of when he used that executive pen, those first 100 days. Because, I mean, on balance, again, if you look at the number of times, it's competitive with other presidents. But when you factor in the timing of it and the substance, it really makes it very powerful. And a point of criticism, go ahead.
Well, the Wall Street Journal just had a big piece today about how a lot of the executive decisions that he's made recently carry into the next administration because they are so sure that Hillary Clinton is going to win and carry on with these executive
immigration,
decisions.
The Supreme Court stopped him on that.
More than once.
Hopeful, you know, one thing that, and I know this is in the wheelhouse of you and Sandra, and I said during this, I said, well, the president is down with TPP. He likes that trade partnership agreement, right? Hillary Clinton doesn't. At least this version of Hillary Clinton.
Go back to what he just said, and what was his defense of it? Right now, I'm the president, and I'm for it. Okay, that was verbatim from his speech. Then he said, this concept began in a Republican administration. I mean, this isn't like a raving endorsement.
No. In fact, you have an endorsement. This is Hillary Clinton's book, which I'm sure everybody's read, right?
Oh, so
cover to cover. It's 600 pages long. Hard Choice is the book. There are only 2 pages about TPP in this book, but they are fulsome and praise.
She was down
and they're gone in the paperback version. But number 2, the president only talks about the aspects of TPP that are convenient for him in this Bernie Sanders era, and that's, you know, he's talking about environmental protection
and the Prime Minister of Singapore, who was just talking about it,
but
and loving it.
The point of free trade is that it lifts people out of poverty across the globe. It is better for people to have more choices. It is better for us to have more trading partners and lower tariffs. And as you were pointing out during the speech, Smoot-Hawley, passed in 1930, had direct impacts on...
In that sense, I think the head of Singapore was right. It did have a direct impact on World War II.
I'm going to jump in because, as you mentioned, while the president was speaking, Donald Trump was also taking to the podium. You are looking at a live picture of him right now holding a rally in Ashburn, Virginia. This is just outside of Washington. The Republican doubling down on his claim that the political system is rigged. Remarks that echo what he told Fox's Sean Hannity when he said there may be something more sinister at play in this election. Watch.
And I'm telling you, November 8th, we better be careful because that election is going to be rigged. And I hope the Republicans are watching closely or it's going to be taken away from us.
All right. I'm afraid the election is going to be rigged. What do you make of him pushing this?
Well, it's already happened to a certain extent. I mean, look what happened in Virginia. Terry McAuliffe, a lifelong Clinton ally, allowed 200,000 ex-cons, felons, to suddenly become voters in the election. I mean, 200,000 votes is nothing to sniff about. I mean, you can argue that already in daylight, it has been rigged in Hillary's favor by at least the allies of Hillary Clinton around the nation. That's just one example. I would like to hear, sometimes he puts something out there, he doesn't have all the facts to back it up, and then he gets the facts later.
Well, but I mean, look at what the Bernie Sanders supporters just went through. I mean, at the convention last week in Philadelphia, I mean, their anguish and their sadness was palpable, and we still don't know how the majority of those people are going to vote. I mean, I talked with many people on the convention floor that were absolutely planning on either not voting or maybe considering what else is out there. Maybe a third party.
Jill Stein. And by the way, something else interesting is happening here. Do you realize how Hillary Clinton allies in the press are not talking about Jill Stein at all, but they're really ginning up Gary Johnson, because the hope is that if mainstream outlets start to talk about the Libertarian nominee Gary Johnson, it'll pull votes away from Donald Trump. They're not giving equal access to Jill Stein.
And she's also a woman.
Well, also people.
Yeah, and that does take away from Hillary Clinton's narrative, and she's also someone who's going after Hillary Clinton, exciting those Bernie Sanders supporters.
Well, and Gary Johnson could be a great choice for somebody who did like Bernie Sanders. They agree on a lot of the same things, except for, of course, economics and how money works and those minor details. But in terms of coming from outside the system and, in terms of, even Second Amendment type of things, civil liberties. So I don't think it's going to necessarily be, if you don't vote for Trump, vote for Gary, it's only going to take votes away from Trump. I think they can take a lot of votes away from Hillary.
But they have other choices.
They do.
Let's talk about the trend in the polls up until now. This latest CNN ORC post-convention poll showing Hillary Clinton did get a bump post-convention, retaking her lead over Donald Trump 52 to 43%. That's a 7-point bounce post-convention. But David, I point out this very important number. 16% of poll respondents say that they could still change their minds. Right. So that's what, as you're discussing, they're all going for.
The two facts of this election: one, there have never been more negatives about another candidate as there are now. And two, I don't think there have ever been as many undecideds as there are now among the independents. Democrats know who they're voting for. Republicans generally know who they're voting for. But you got the 1/3 of the American public just totally undecided.
So here's my question. I don't think we can answer it at this point. So rhetorically, did the conventions change any minds to the point where people feel like they know who they want to vote for?
Not in the end. I think temporarily, yes. And that's the poll that Sandra was alluding to.
So
I think temporarily they got a solid bump up. But we're a long way. And Sandy, you mentioned it's the debates.
I was just going to say, I just heard you call me Sandra, and then you went back to Sandy again. I have known David since I started at Fox in 2007. That's the first time I've heard you say Sandra.
So do we call you Dave?
You can call me anything. Sandy was so sweet, though, when I first asked. Remember when I first asked you, do you mind if I call you Sandy? You said, fine.
And you're the only one here.
I'm the same. Davey, no. Davey.
Yeah, no.
You don't think so?
Well, unless you're talking about Davy Jones Locker.
All right. Well, it is 242 days and counting since the last time Hillary Clinton held a formal news conference. But now, the Democratic nominee is set to address a convention of minority journalists. Will she finally take questions, or is there too much at risk for her campaign?
Welcome back to Outnumbered, the best part of your day. Hillary Clinton hasn't held a formal news conference since December of 2002. That's what it feels like. It's actually just 242 days, if you're keeping score at home, and months before any of the primaries or caucuses. But now Clinton is planning to address a joint convention of Hispanic and Black journalists later this month. It's unclear if she'll actually take questions. But Hillary's campaign pollster recently told ABC News, quote, "We'll have a press conference when we want to have a press conference."
Oh.
Wow, how wonderfully convenient for them.
I know where I would start.
Where?
First, I take off my inline skates because we've been skating after her, trying to catch up with her for 200-plus days. I would start with, how do you feel about the president right now saying that Libya is among some of his biggest regrets and mistakes when it's such a part of your biography?
Yeah, she won't take those kinds of questions.
Wow.
They'll be like, what's your favorite thing about being a grandma?
But I wanted to get it out there in case it doesn't happen. You know,
won't have
while I'm
time or
still
reading
a sentient
Goodnight Moon.
being.
Yeah, she'll either take no questions. It'll be like, so, you're a woman. Elaborate on that.
Well, I can start there. You're a woman. And the president has been saying that among his biggest, I mean, it could still work. I mean, it has nothing to do with the answer.
Yeah, she'll just answer all the questions by being like, I'm a grandma.
I mean, David, don't you think she looks at Donald Trump, because it seems like recently Donald Trump has been getting himself into a little bit of trouble when he holds these extended press conferences, which are wildly entertaining, but sometimes when he goes off message, as
Yeah, but at least he takes the questions.
Well,
At least
I gotta say,
give him
though, I gotta
credit for
say
that, and he knows that. Part of the reason he does that is
his
because she
biggest
doesn't.
problem right now is the question fielded from George Stephanopoulos. It wasn't at a big press conference. I happen to think that his last big, I didn't see the one today because we were watching the Singapore Prime Minister, but the last press conference he did last week was pretty good. He was totally off cuff. Remember the one right during the middle of the
He was talking
Democratic,
about selling the condos.
It was pretty good stuff. It's his problem, of course, is when he loses sight of the target. The target is Hillary Clinton. The target is not anybody else. Certainly not a Gold Star family. The target is Hillary Clinton. He focuses on her, and he's going to do okay.
So 242 days and counting. Tough questions at a press conference for Hillary Clinton should surely. The economy should surely be included in that, because what do Republicans say is primarily how she's describing her economic plan: raising taxes and infrastructure spending, right? So we need to dive deeper into the details. Been there, done that. How are you going to differentiate yourself from the Obama economy that the White House right now touts as so wonderful, but we know that Main Street isn't feeling that? So how are you going to tell them and reach out to those voters and say that things are going to be different?
Well, we said it before. We're really not going to get a solid debate until there's a debate, until you see those two individuals on stage. You remember the first question that we heard in this press conference with the Singaporean Prime Minister was a gimme to the president. You know, what do you think about? You're going to hear more questions like that of Hillary, and not the tough questions. Hey,
but if that were
Mrs.
the
Clinton,
case, she'd
your
be
numbers
holding
don't
more
add up.
news conferences, right? She knows that that's not going to be the case. She knows that she's going to have to face at least a few tough questions. Otherwise, we might have seen her in that venue. By the way, she says she's done hundreds of these sit-down interviews. Wouldn't it be interesting if reporters said, you know what, and they would never do this, no more sit-downs until she does a news conference.
She did one on like Lifetime. She talked about what her and Bill do on dates.
Right.
It's hard-hitting. I'm a
stomach-turning.
single-issue voter, and it's like what you do with your husband, what you guys like to eat for dinner. That's how I make my choice. So glad they're talking about it.
It's the hard-hitting stuff.
Yeah, totally.
All right, well, growing questions about whether Donald Trump and House Speaker Paul Ryan still have some fences to mend. What Speaker Ryan said, Trump's tweet, and what it may take to get the establishment fully on board behind the Republican nominee. Is that possible? We will discuss from the couch. Number returns in a moment. Stay here.
We report, you decide, we'll discuss, but there appears to be some new tension brewing between House Speaker Paul Ryan and Donald Trump. This time, it's stemming from some remarks made by Ryan at a gathering of top Republican donors in Colorado. Ryan told the audience, quote, "We have to do a better job of taking the moral high ground, showing conservative ideas in practice, and it will help us retake the soul of our own party, which we have our own challenges with these days," end quote. Ryan never mentioned Trump by name, but did refer to him as a unique and different kind of nominee. Trump then fired back by sending a thank you tweet to the Republican challenger, trying to unseat Ryan in next Tuesday's primary. And he said this: "Thanks for your kind words. Very much appreciated."
Oh, boy.
Fun. David?
I love that phrase. What do you say? Unique and different. That's what, when you go to an art gallery and you see a work of a friend of yours and you hate it, you say, well, it's unique and different, isn't it?
That's different.
You just get the sense these guys don't like each other.
Does it matter?
I don't think so. In fact, if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, I would kind of like it if he didn't get along with the Speaker of the House. I like the tension between the executive and the legislature. When Republican presidents have Republican Congresses, generally they just spend more money. Look what happened to the Bush administration.
Absolutely right. I mean, they can't control themselves. They feel that's their job to get in there. They're just all a bunch of busybodies. But I do love the political passive aggression. I mean, it's wildly entertaining. And at some point you have to wonder whether or not Paul Ryan is going to unendorse him. And, you know, I don't know if his primary challenger is giving him the fight of his life, but there are
Trump's been talking him up.
Several contests that are so close, and the Trump factor could be the deciding one here. And it'll be interesting to see how Ryan plays this, because obviously if Donald Trump loses, Paul Ryan wants to run for president in 2020. So he's walking quite a tightrope.
My mother used to tell me, Sandra, that if you can't say something sincerely, you should just be quiet. So
she is a wise woman.
I think
that hasn't been happening.
That surely is happening.
A wise woman.
But, you know, to Kennedy's point, I don't even think he has to unendorse. I mean, he can just be as disingenuous as possible.
Let me put it this way.
He called him a racist and didn't unendorse. So.
Based on what we just heard out of the president's mouth, who I will reiterate is campaigning for Hillary Clinton the entire month of October, he just said, challenging GOP leaders, if you repeatedly have to say what hashtag Trump says is unacceptable, this is Fox News repeating this, why are you endorsing him? Okay? And then he followed that up with, what does this say about your party that this is your standard bearer? So we know that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are going to continually use Paul Ryan and other GOP leaders that are reluctant to
something just
openly support him.
As you were saying that, why? Is it because it's a rigged system and everybody knows that you've got to endorse the candidate even if you don't agree with them? I mean, is that part? Because that actually benefits Donald Trump. Look, I got this guy to endorse me. He doesn't really want to, but he knows he has to.
You kind of lose either way. You pull a Ted Cruz and people are mad at you for that, or you do endorse and, you know, you still clearly might have problems with it. Pulling a Ted, people are mad, or you pull a Paul Ryan and you do endorse, but you still have your issues and people are mad about that. So basically the lesson here is no matter what you do, you're always wrong.
Wow.
Thanks, Kat.
Wow.
No, it's so complicated. It's like nothing we've never seen before. So nobody knows what to do. They're just kind of doing their best. Trump does say some things that, you know, kind of difficult to stand behind, but that party unity is more important than that to some people.
I've been saying this from the beginning, back in the primaries when Donald Trump started winning and when there were still 15, 16 people in the race. Why didn't the party get with him then? Or at least say, look, if you turn out to be the winner, we're going to work with you on your messaging.
They didn't think he was going to win. I talked to a very big person in the Republican Party just a couple of months before he got the nomination. He said Donald Trump will never, ever, ever be the Republican Party nominee. They really didn't believe he would win.
It was funny. It was all fun and games. And, oh, wait. Never mind, all of a sudden.
It's sad to see a crystal ball break.
Not always. I like it when that happens.
All right. Hillary Clinton is working on winning over one group of voters she's struggling with, white working class men. How she's planning to do it. Will it work?
All right, Hillary Clinton reaching out to one group of voters she's struggling to connect with, white men. During a two-day bus tour of Rust Belt swing states over the weekend, Clinton appeared on stage with her two top ambassadors to that group, her husband, Bill, and her running mate, Tim Kaine. She also dropped the female pop star entrance music for Motown classics instead. And once she was out there, she talked football, food, and jobs.
My father plus one of my brothers played football at Penn State, so it's always a joy for me to be here. I started eating hot peppers back in '92. I'm still eating them, and I'm still standing, and I'm still to go to the White House. I have specific plans about how we're going to get the economy working for everybody. We are going to make the biggest investment in new jobs since World War II.
Hot peppers and football. Did that work for you, Kennedy?
Oh my gosh, she's pandering. It's so embarrassing. Is she continuing with the hot sauce pandering?
I don't get it.
What was she wearing?
Was she in
Honolulu
hair
at her
like
first
that?
luau?
You could pop that with like a white short something.
I don't know. And by the way, Tim Kaine is so goofy, sitting there clapping. Here's a group of men who've seen their manufacturing jobs evaporate. They're worried that a lot more employment's going to go overseas or south of the border. And Tim Kaine is speaking to them in Espanol.
Yeah, she's like, listen, white men, I too have heard of this football. I've heard it's the same thing as when she tries with millennials to use the Pokemon go to the polls joke, which made me just want to hit myself in the face. It was so bad. It's so obvious that there's no subtle way for her to try to connect with people as people. She's like, okay, white guys like football, so I'll just go up there and I'll say football, and then they'll vote for me.
Or when she said that she left the White House in poverty and had to struggle up from nothing.
She had to get a manufacturing job. She actually went to a trade college for 2 years.
But Kennedy puts her finger on it. A lot of the white middle class people in the country, particularly those who've lost their well-paying jobs, feel like they're the working stiffs, that everybody else gets the advantages and they get nothing. They get bupkis.
So what did you make of her effort to reach out to the white male voter?
I don't think it's going to work. I think it's just as sincere as all the other platitudes she's tripped over herself making.
The real problem for Hillary Clinton, though, is the fact that these people used to be the base of the party. You know, rural whites used to be the base of the party, particularly in places like Virginia. So when you bring up the point that Kennedy just made about Tim Kaine and his track record with jobs, and I mean, that's a point that you're not seeing many in the media really hit, and it's something that counts. It's something that counts, because maybe he's got an answer of how he would fix it. He didn't do it there, but maybe he thinks he can fix it on a different level.
I don't want to say that Donald Trump is just like Ronald Reagan, because he's not. They're very different people. But what happened when Ronald Reagan was elected, he got a lot of the working stiffs that used to be a part of the Democratic Party. He got the endorsement of the Teamsters Union. Ronald Reagan did. Donald Trump is appealing to the same group, particularly after what Hillary said about coal miners and about all these people who are losing their jobs specifically because of the policies she not only wants to keep in place, but accentuate.
I would ask, if he's going to do that, Sandra, should he then focus less on her and focus more on that message of making it better?
You're never going to hear me argue about focusing more on the economy, whether that's to woo women or white male voters. I mean, just in general, that needs to be a topic of conversation. Do you think that she's spending too much time targeting Donald Trump?
Yeah, I think so. But again, what does she have other than Donald Trump to be for? She's much more successful being against Donald Trump than she is for a policy that is not clear in as far as it's just a continuation of what Obama did, but on steroids.
Yeah, and
so it's you attack the guy that a lot of people don't like rather than defend something that is not that defensible.
I want to hear someone ask him, Tim Kaine, about his support for TPP when she's so dead set against it, because I think that's a big issue that voters need to have fleshed out.
More Outnumbered in just a moment.
Wow. Okay, so David Asman's already telling us what we should be talking about in Outnumbered Overtime, which, by the way, is on foxnews.com/Outnumbered.
A friend
and click
who
on the
has
Overtime tab.
78 nieces and nephews. I'll tell you all about it in Overtime.
And she doesn't have any children.
No.
Right. Also, we're on Facebook Live. Do the math on that. I'm sitting between the math experts, so it should be really exciting. And other stuff online happening now. Hi, Jenna. All right, I promise we are not going to talk about David Asman's 78 nephews and nieces.
Not mine, a very good friend of the family.
Outnumbered Overtime. I haven't done it in a while. OT, baby!
There you go.
You were off one day.
Oh, good.
You love that.
You okay? Are you okay?
We haven't done it since Philly last Wednesday.
That's like bowling going like this.
And there was no
OT on Thursday because we left. I mean, it has been a minute. Right?
Thursday we did do OT, actually.
Minute goes fast in TV.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
It's all right.
Felt like
but we didn't do the
it.
digital hangout.
Oh,
no,
which is like the extended OT.
Fine.
Yes. Oh, we should do that all the time.
What's everybody writing about?
You?
You're all... No, they're not.
No. I'm getting... We're on Facebook Live. Which was really exciting when we were in Cleveland and Philly.
All right, let's check it out.
People were like 90,000 people were signed on to, without a Kardashian. I mean, you don't understand.
These are originals. This isn't one guy.
One for the day.
Can you rent a Kardashian?
Oh yeah, are you kidding me,
honey? That's family.
Everybody's money.
We could rent a Kardashian's arm.
Yeah, you could.
Just put her arm in a frame. Yeah, but I mean, those are some good numbers on Facebook Live.
That's great.
Kat, I haven't seen you in a while. What's new?
Oh, nothing's really new. Today is the 6-year anniversary of when I got my cat, so that's pretty exciting.
Is your cat still living?
Cheens, yeah. He's 6 years old. He's doing a good job.
Wonderful.
That's what I consider to be exciting news in my life, so.
That's wonderful.
Got a lot going on, man. He's laughing at me. He's laughing in my face.
A beautiful girl in Manhattan, and
Yeah.
it's the cat,
It's tough out there.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Wow.
For
Yeah, thanks for not finishing. It's hard out there for
me.
In disturbing pet news, my dog keeps eating socks and underwear.
Oh no, yeah, they
Eating
do that.
socks?
Is that a thing?
Does it
Yeah.
literally go through the whole system?
It comes out one way or the other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's a problem. And he's now figured out how to knock over the hamper, so.
Wouldn't that like destroy his stomach?
Yeah, his intestinal
Yeah,
system
we're
must be a
worried
mess.
because, I'm worried because my undie budget is now.
Now, is this a rescue dog?
Those hanky pankies,
no.
they're like $25 a piece.
I know, you're telling me. And he's got a very particular kind that he likes. No, it's a French bulldog.
Wow.
That was such a moment.
Do all the overtime shows start with talking
No,
about these
sweetie.
things?
But we were trying
I
to
didn't
do
think so.
anything to avoid how we ended the TV version of us teasing that we were going to
Why? I
talk
think
about
it's
your
kinda
78 nieces and
It's
nephews
not
of a
mine.
friend. I
It's my
know, it's
friend,
always a
yes.
friend.
78 nieces and nephews, and she knows the name of every single one of them.
And she doesn't have children. All right, go
She
ahead,
has
tell
no
us.
children. Well, she
How did
comes
that
from a
happen?
she has 15 brothers and sisters,
Oh,
and
my
it's a good
Lord.
Catholic
There you
family, and they all
What do they do at
practice
Christmas?
just run out of
Apparently
the Vatican
procreate.
birth control.
Yeah.
And
What?
bingo.
Apparently procreate.
Yeah, they make more of them.
They don't have TVs.
Oh.
I feel like
So they're not watching us?
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably on their tablet devices, though.
Mark Simpson just wrote on Facebook Live, wow, just tuned in on the internet talking about cats in underwear.
is there anything else?
But not cats in underwear.
No.
Let's make it.
No.
So moving on.
All right, so Swag Daddy 82. What is Hillary's message to working America? Vote for me so my environmental buddies can put you out of work. That's Swag Daddy 82. Anybody want to take
Yeah,
that?
but she likes football and Pokemon. So don't worry about any other stuff she just
I just
said.
think her attempts to win that vote that Donald Trump, I mean, they're so solid in their ways. They are so solid in their dislike of her. And a lot of them think that Donald Trump is a savior.
Yeah.
I mean, they
So
really
how
think
in
he's a
trouble
savior.
is she can't win that vote, Kennedy? I mean, how much of a percentage? Because you see her compartmentalizing and doing the identity politics with blacks and Latinos. I mean, how?
I think she's definitely fine with blacks. She still has some work to do with Latinos. I talked to Juan Williams last night about how the Democratic Party is blowing it with the Latino vote, specifically.
Juan Williams said that?
Yeah,
Wow.
specifically in places like California, because you have a seat in California. It's interesting because whoever gets the most votes, regardless of party, that's who goes on. Those are the two people who go on for the gubernatorial and Senate races. So you have Kamala Harris and Loretta Sanchez, who are both running for the vacant Senate seat there, and the establishment has backed Kamala Harris. And Loretta Sanchez, like, hey, listen, we have a larger Hispanic population. I have a better chance of winning. Why aren't you guys backing me? And a lot of Latinos in California are saying the same thing. And the Democratic Party has taken them so for granted. They have to be really careful about that. I don't think she's going to make a lot of headway with white men. They're actually split 40% apiece with white
Does
women.
she desperately need them, or can she move forward without them? Is what I was asking.
I think she can't keep making these clumsy plays because they're so transparent and so insulting to the group she's trying to woo.
You mean
But-
like no more coal?
Yeah, I'm going to shut down Cole. Vote for me.
And it's impossible for her
By the
to
way,
reverse course on
Can I
a lot
make
of
a comment about Hispanic? I'm married a Nicaraguan, so I know a little bit about the Hispanic community. It's also insulting to Hispanics to say the only way you can support somebody is if their last name sounds Spanish, Sanchez or whatever. I mean, Hispanics very much interested in their own self-interest. It's not just in terms of voting for somebody who happens to be Hispanic. It's voting for somebody who has policies that are going to help me. There are a lot of Hispanics that feel that way, and the heck with this politics that says you can only vote for a Hispanic if you're Hispanic.
Well, and I think the Republicans have given up on the Latino vote, and Juan and I were making the point that that's a very natural base for Republicans because they're pro-family and pro-business.
Bingo.
But also, we have to stop lumping people together with this identity politics, which is so comfortable for Democrats to do. And so she's just assuming if I make this flimsy play that white men are stupid, that they're just going to see me talking about football and hot peppers and automatically vote for me.
Well, but if she spent maybe less time, and this is a question, if she spent perhaps less time talking about the fact that women should vote for her because she's a woman
Right.
Or intimating that she would do more for women because she'd be a woman president. That's the most fair way to say it. Maybe men wouldn't feel like they're left out. Like, why can't she help everybody?
Yeah, if she's doing more for women, is she doing less for men?
So let's talk TPP. Kevin Dubuque says, they say Kane is for TPP, so is Pence. So if ask one, ask the other, fair and balanced.
Amen.
Your thought?
By the way, are you
going to take that?
I'm going to take that because I want to get back to what Hillary said about it originally. She said originally that it was the gold standard in trade agreements. Remember that?
Yep.
She said, and I'm going to quote her, she said, this TPP sets the gold standard in trade agreements, this is in 2012, to open, free, transparent, free trade, the kind of environment that, and then during the debate with Bernie Sanders, when he said, well, you're for TPP, she said, no, I said, I hoped it would be the gold standard.
No, she didn't.
Right,
exactly.
But that's not true. I just read you what she said. She said it was the gold standard.
What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Ask them both, and ask both candidates side by side, and let them flesh it out and make their case. And is that a critical component of their message? Do they have to both share the same opinion, which means one of them would have to flip? Tim Kaine has been utterly silent on that. And as you remember, at the DNC, during his speech, the Bernie supporters were holding up their no TPP signs the entire time. His entire speech.
Yes.
They were trying to chant no TPP and were shot down.
They smuggled in those signs.
Yeah,
but
they're the ones who have forced Hillary to the left. If it weren't for that influence in the party, she would still be.
I'm not confident she has any actual opinions. Maybe she'll be a fan of TPP again if she feels like she has to be. I don't think. How could I think that she does?
Well,
She
about
changes her mind on
Keystone,
everything.
she said she never had an opinion about it until she had an opinion
Right.
about
Did
it.
you not? That?
I mean, I don't know.
Nobody had
I'm
told
just
her what
quoting
she
her.
needed
By
to
the way, they
think yet.
smuggled the TPP, no
Well,
TPP
smuggled is
sign?
probably a bigger
They
word
put it
than what
under
it
their
was.
shirt,
They
or-
didn't get them from the convention. They went to an outside venue and were making the signs and picked up
heard
these
that.
signs.
No,
and they were taking them out of their...
Yeah.
Underneath
so,
their shirt.
All right, Lucy Tribble says, I love your show. You are the women I would love to have as best friends.
Oh.
How sweet is that?
Wow, nice.
You just
That's
got
a
left
big
out of that.
compliment. That's
Sorry.
all right.
But you're with us.
That's
so.
a sweet compliment.
Isn't that sweet? Thank you.
And more importantly, David,
What's happening
we're
on
with you.
Facebook Live?
All right.
I'm going there now.
Vincent says, Kat, you need to be more active on your Facebook page.
Ooh.
Oh, I never on my Facebook.
Penny says, good group of women on
You
there
might want to
today.
go on it now, though. 'Cause people are watching you now.
Oh boy.
Okay, Jimmy Brown weighing in.
I am on Snapchat.
Oh, Anthony
How do you differentiate
Arico.
between Instagram
That's a
and
good
Snapchat?
question.
Snapchat, I just constantly am snapping everything.
And
I like
Instagram,
to-
they're beautiful
I have a little birthmark between my eyes that people like to be mean about on the internet, so I have fun putting little emojis over it on Snapchat.
Let me
Like
see.
that.
Yeah,
Right
you
here, little kiss
my
signs
God.
or little 100% emojis.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, so
Hilarious.
very, very
I
cool.
noticed that. Your glasses hit your
I know. I didn't notice it either, but apparently it was very, 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 very horrible of me to forget to edit it out, and I really hurt some people on the internet by exposing them to it.
Wow.
People are mean.
Anthony
People
Arico
are
says,
mean.
Anthony Arico says on Facebook Live, and thank you for watching us, how do you think the debates are going to go? I think you said we saw a little taste of that, maybe.
What was the what?
How are
do
the
you
debates
think?
going
How do you think the debates are going to go?
Riveting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They
I mean,
always
how could
are,
they
right?
not be,
She
really?
will do best with her pre-prepared factlets, which she always does. And
Backlit?
she will cram as many of them into her precious brain as she can. And he's going to hit below the belt, and he's a way better counterpuncher. So she's got to be very careful not to attack him.
What would he
'cause
say
she's
to
not
hit
good
below the belt?
responding in the moment.
But what would he say?
No.
What? Give us an example.
Does he
How
bring
would
up
hit-
the Clintons' personal past in a
He
debate
brings up
format?
their
I see.
past.
Like
he
Bill
brings up
Clinton.
the Clinton Foundation.
Right. Well, Bill Clinton's
He brings up Benghazi.
past is different from the Clinton Foundation. Clinton Foundation is a real legitimate thing where I think U.S. interests were put at risk by her trying to push the Clinton Foundation. That's legitimate. Bringing
And
up
this Nisco
Bill
Cova
Clinton's
story is
past
I
Piccadilly.
don't
No, but I
don't
think
know.
everybody assumes that he's gonna go there.
Yeah.
But I think everybody's wondering what does he have up his sleeve that we don't know about yet that he's gonna pull out and hit below.
Good question.
Right?
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
I wonder.
I don't know.
I mean,
Well, they've
what if
known
he
each
tries to
other a long
hijack it?
time.
And what if he says to her, how do you explain the way you treated the women who accused your husband of rape?
Wow.
Yeah, and how does
Wow.
she respond to something like that? in
Who
the
do you
moment?
think would ask her that?
Donald Trump.
Yeah,
I think if in the middle of an answer he would turn to her and
Does
and
that
say
make
something
him
like
look bad though, and make him look irrational and not presidential?
It's a good question.
And he's-
It's a very good question. I don't know. I don't know how the public will respond. If she goes after him, on anything dealing with sexuality or dealing with that.
Yeah.
If she gets personal, he is.
Then we're all
going to
be uncomfortable. Let's put it that way.
He's going to do exactly what you said she's going to do.
All right.
As long as it's equal. Like you can't say you can't
Equal
ask me
time.
that because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Like you can't play that victim card.
I'm this close to my hair going in a ponytail. Okay.
Oh. All right, well, we got to go because she's about to put her dew in a bun.
Let's see it.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Let's have it done.
Okay, bye.